But speaking of cool and things to see and things to do, Ian Moe's captain,
Yeah.
as you said, you're going to talk about Moe's tonight and Moe's shields, I believe.
Yes, I am. And I'm going to explain the statement I made earlier. Again, every
Okay.
character, the shield's important, right? I'm not going to say the shield's not important, because it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really going to say, going to argue the point that everybody needs shields, but since you caved and said so, all right, go ahead.
No, I mean everybody does, right? But let me put it to you this way, right? Like, so Zane, the Snow Goblin build that I did a little while ago, right? Clone, Sentinel. What was most important there was having any shield. I chose to go with an old god, but any shield that had Sentinel movement speed. I could have run a, stopgap. I could have run a recharger. I could have run, just about anything, right? Or a good second choice would have been to run a 0.M, so that whenever I pop the clone up, the clone's getting its damage buffed by the 0.M. It's not a game breaker on those builds, right? Amara, another great example. Amara, everybody pretty much will almost always go old god on Amara for enhanced elemental damage, but you can run a Frozen Heart, and that's kind of fun because she has her action skill up a lot, so you can run around and just freeze the whole room repeatedly. Kind of fun. But you can run a recharger or a stopgap or, any number of other, like basically anything you want, more or less, other than...
Amara's so strong in general, so it's... The shields are, they're important, but they're almost secondary to what she does.
Correct. And I mean, you're going to run something like a Spike Stinger or a Riposted Stinger if you're running melee Amara, right? Almost everybody. Or you're going to run a ward. So those are important. Probably the second most important build in this game that relies very heavily on shields would be melee Amara. But it's only one build on that tune. And even if you don't have those pieces, like let's say you don't have a ward shield, or you don't have a Riposted Stinger because you haven't done the Guardian Takedown, you don't have one, it's not going to end your day. Like you're still going to be super, super disgustingly strong, even if you're running a garbage shield. You know what I mean?
Right.
With melee Amara. And then Flak, the front loader is important, if you're going to run Gamma Burst Flak, but on every other build, and any old front loader will work. That's the funny thing, right? Like, it doesn't even matter. The anointment's not even all that important on it. Just any front loader will work. Or if you're running any of the other Flak builds, you're running Fadeaway or whatever, then it really doesn't matter. Fadeaway is not dependent on a shield. But on Moe's, whose whole thing is being the tank, the shield becomes so important. It's just super, super important because it's the difference between you being actually tanky. In some cases, it's the difference between the ability to do additional damage. And there are some very good and almost clear, obvious choices to really maximize Moe's just using the right shield and artifact combo. Like where the difference is significant in damage or survivability. And so tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to show you some of the shields that I use for the different builds. And we're going to basically categorize Moe's into... We're going to categorize her tonight for the purposes of tonight. I'm not going to cover any bear builds. I'll talk a little bit about it, but I'm not going to cover it. Because bear builds, the bear is your armor. There are some good obvious choices. The Plus Ultra is almost a requirement if you're going to run a bear build, if you want the most survivability. And it's so obvious of a choice that, I just don't see why you wouldn't run it. You can run a bear build without it.
Why do you think it's so obvious?
Because the bear's armor is based on your health. And the Plus Ultra gives you 200% health.
Gives you monster health bar. Okay.
Yeah. But if you don't have DLC 4, right, because Plus Ultra came from 4, yes? Trying to remember. Yeah. I think so. If you don't have DLC 4, just the biggest possible shield you have that has good health roll on it is what you would run in a bear build. And on every other build, though, I'm going to break it down into two categories. We have splash Moes, and we have low health Moes. Different shields and different artifacts make sense there, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to show you how it plays. So I'm going to start tonight with Splash Mows. This is that doll build from last week, although I did put a rocket launcher on for the purpose of demoing tonight. And this is literally just using a Blastmaster. I could put on a green monster, I could put on a minesweeper, I could put on a sapper, it doesn't matter. All those are splash build. Reminder, the skill tree here is all the way down in blue, all the way down in green, and a little ways down in red. So this is all about ammo regen and dealing splash damage. And from a shield perspective here, you got a couple options. I like the Plus Ultra. And I like the Bullet Buffet or the Old God. The problem with the Plus Ultra is that you're not gonna have enough armor bar. Now, reminder in Moses' skill tree, if you're running any comm other than Bloodletter, you're healing your health bar. So having a big health bar is good, and you'll see on this, like, watch that health bar, 65,000. But that shield of 14 is very small. So, though I like this because I can heal that big health bar, if I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to put on a Lunacy. And the Lunacy reads equivalent exchange. It's double your shield's health, but greatly increases your shield's recharge delay. Well, it turns out it multiplies it by 216%.
That's a good improvement.
No, 216%, it increases the recharge delay. So it makes your recharge rate worse by 216%. But what I wanted to show you about from the math perspective here is, so now I have the Bullet Buffet Old God back on, which has a recharge delay of 4.8. 4.8 seconds of taking no damage and it'll start to recharge. If I throw on the Plus Ultra and get that big health bar, 2.3 times 2 is 4.6, and then the 16%, it's like 4.8, which of course matches right up with this. Right. So basically you trade nothing, right? You get the massive health bar and a decent shield out of it. However, you do lose out on the elemental damage that comes from the Old God. And I like that elemental damage, right? I do. So my default, I think, best shield for a splash damage build is actually going to be this. One other choice I sometimes make if I'm in harder content.
Talk about the Bullet Buffet Old
God. Bullet Buffet Old God.
Any run anointments or anything like that you run that you prefer to see?
I was gonna say I run all of my Mo shields, with the exception of the Rerouter and the Frozen Snowshoe, with, after exiting Iron Bear, 75% increased shields and health for 25 seconds. The reason why, and people can argue all kinds of things, but 50% elemental damage for a short while, 10 seconds, is not nearly as strong as having monster health and shield for 25 seconds. Getting Iron Bear cooldown, there's one for Iron Bear cooldown, like kills increase cooldown by 30%. That's also valuable. More in a bear, like in an Iron Bear build, like where you want to be able to get back in the bear really quick. I would never run it on a out of the bear build. So I'm always looking for this. It's basically the only anointment I would ever run on Mo's.
And under the description, it says something like absorb. Is that also what you look for? Or do you look for different callouts there? Or is that what makes it a Bullet Buffet?
That's what makes it a Bullet Buffet. So that's basically gonna reduce your incoming damage by 40%. Now, I would rather have a multivitamin here, double health, but I don't have a multivitamin Old God with that anointment on it. So
okay.
That would be my preferred one, but I don't have it, so it is what it is. I have some ASE ones, 50% ASE ones, that are multivitamin, but again, I just can't live without my 75% health and shield. Like that is such a good anointment. It might be the best shield anointment other than Sentinel movement speed in this entire game. and it's hard for me to trade it out for anything else. But I
Makes
never want to
sense. I
run,
mean, like you said, you had the monster and the immunity and stuff like that. That totally makes sense.
and I never want to run that with the lunacy though, because that would make my recharge delay 8 seconds, which is ridiculous. So what I am going to run it with is a Pearl, and I usually run a max health Pearl on Moze to give me a bigger health bar. But you can see that's half the health bar I had with that Plus Ultra on. So a lot less room to heal and a lot more chance that I may go straight down. So the other shield that I will run if I'm running, let's say you and I decide to go do Circle of Slaughter, I would actually trade this Old God out for a Stronghold Stopgap, which has health and Turtle, and after exiting Iron Bear. The reason being, this is just going to give me a lot more sustain. And, again, with Moze, and you've experienced this, you know this to be true, Moze kills herself a lot. Yep. Other things kill Moze a lot. The healing that she gets off the grenades and off of things like Russian Offensive are not that strong. They're just not that strong. And so that heal is not persistent enough to keep her upright sometimes, especially if damage is coming from all sides. And she doesn't really, unlike all 3 other characters in this game, you got Flak that can distract, you got Amara that can freeze enemies in place with her Phase Grasp, and you've got Zane, who can either distract with his clone or literally freeze enemies with ice. Moze has virtually no ability to stop an enemy in their tracks or distract them away from shooting at Moze. And in fact, when you hop in and out of your bear, everybody's shooting at you. Like in that moment. You know what I mean?
It's hard to miss a big old mechanical bear sitting on the battlefield. I mean, it makes sense.
So if you've got the rocket spam coming in at you in Circle of Slaughter, the only choice is to have a stopgap on to buy yourself that 5 seconds of immunity when your shield drops, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen a lot. And if you don't want to be trying to fight for your life, the right thing to do is put on the stopgap. So I am going to show you what this looks like, and I am going to show you, the one thing with this, and we're just going to do this first section with splash damage Moze, because the one thing I don't really do is I don't really change out splash damage Moze, any of her shields or artifacts for bossing. I just kind of run. It's kind of what's nice about it, right? I basically I run the build like I run the build all the time. And it is a very, very, very strong build. As you will see, it is just going to wreck stuff here.
And what are you looking for out of your shield right now? Just the regen on it? Or
well, you could see how big my shield and my health are right now, right?
Yes.
That's all coming from that 75% after Iron Bear.
Right.
Now you'll also
huge.
see
pretty big.
So the flamethrower heavyweight is a challenge for me because I deal a lot of incendiary damage, and so a lot of my damage is gone against anything that's immune to incendiary. But yeah, here I'm going to get it back out again.
That didn't look like it proc that time for you. You just were hit by so many stuff at once.
Oh, no, it won't. My health procced, you can see that, but if your shield's taking damage, it has to stop taking damage for it to fill.
Okay.
But the health filled, and that's actually, I would argue, even more important that the health procced, right? Because the health is, again, where my healing is going to come in on a splash build. So I jumped up to 46 or so %. I did bring one other shield for splash damage Moze, just to show it, this is a Supergiant version 0.m. And this is on action skill start, activate any effects that trigger on shield breaker fill. And you can't really use those all that effectively on Moze, except for the fact that when I pop this up, it is going to pop up a circle right where I start the action skill. And whatever's in that circle, I think it's a 35% damage buff. And so if I want to enhance the damage that my Iron Bear puts out, like say I was running an Auto Bear build, which I'm not, so this is only going to be limitedly effective, but let's say I was, you heard the shield break, now you see the red dot there, and I'm going to leave my bear there, and when my bear dumps those nukes, man, are they going to be strong, because that little circle's underneath there, and it'll wreck stuff.
Yeah,
so
that,
if you
that
want
same thing works with the Digiclone as well. So that's a good shield for both Moze and
right.
Zane. So that's kind of nice.
And the fun thing with that one is if you are running an Auto Bear build where you've got like the turret, I think it's called Daka Bear, and you pop up your turret on top, that makes that ridiculously strong, like insanely strong. So that shield has a great benefit on Moze and on Zane, and if you're going to run an Auto Bear build, I don't see why you would ever like run any other shield than that, because it's a bunch of free damage to an already insanely strong piece of your build, right? Like
right.
that the bear is
turn down
ridiculous.
Free damage.
Right.
So that you're going to turn it down.
That's that shield, and so it's an excellent choice.
Which shield was that again?
What? And it works for Zane. It works very effectively for Zane.
What shield was that again? I'm drawing a blank on the name.
Oh, it is the 0.m. Version 0.m. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to go back to my Bullet Buffet, Old God. And I'm actually going to drop and go get my low health Moze, and I'll invite you